Just want to go over a few points about what this bill does and what this bill does not do. And I think folks on our side have made this perfectly clear. This is a bill that provides cover in a political campaign. It's a political vote. It is a bill that is perfect for those of you that view yourself as populists and want to say that you did something. And I suspect that if this bill passes today, obviously this going nowhere in the Senate, there'll be people taking victory laps and saying, we did pension reform and we did great things and we should be proud of ourselves. Should we do something on the General Assembly? Of course. Should we do things on abuse? Of course. But in the context of this overall problem, I think we would all agree that this does absolutely nothing. Let's think about why we got here today. On Friday of this month, the governor called us back and said, we have got to address pension reform in a comprehensive manner. This is our governor. He said we're spending $12 million a day when we don't address pension reform. We have an $83 to $85 billion unfunded liability that next year will go to $93 billion. Moody's says $130 billion in unfunded liability. We will be spending in this year's budget $7 billion on pension-related items. In next year's budget, $8 billion on pension-related items. Nobody in this room or on this floor can tell an annuitant or a soon-to-be annuitant that you will definitely have a pension down the road. And the whole issue of crowding out, which has been a problem because of the escalation of our annual payments, has been a huge problem. As we said, we'll spend over $8 billion in the next year's budget. We walked in this morning with all of those problems. If this bill passes, we will still owe $12 million a day, or it will accumulate. We will still have an $85 billion unfunded liability growing to 93, and if you listen to Moody's, over $130 billion. We will still be the worst funded pension system in the country. The worst funded pension system in the country. We will still spend $7 billion this year on pension-related items, and next year over $8 billion. We will still have to say to annuitants, I am very sorry, we cannot promise you that you'll have a pension down the road, and we will still have the crowding out problem. Nothing changes from the minute we walked in this morning to the day till we leave here today. This bill does nothing in the scheme of the problem we have. So before you start taking the victory laps, and it sounds good to the coffee shop crowd or to the press perhaps, anybody that's followed this, that cares about it, that wants to solve it, knows that this is nothing but the move of a populist. It's the great playbook that you have that says, how do we look like we're doing something when we're really doing nothing? We've been down this road. You've got a chapter. You've got it figured out very, very well. You follow it often. We did it on comp. We did it on campaign finance reform, and you want to do it today on pensions. And what I guess I just find challenging or questioning, someone in earlier comments said the playing field has changed or the goal lines have changed. I would like to think that we all have the same goal line, that we want to pass a comprehensive reform bill. I think the playing field has gotten larger. When we started talking about this 2 years ago, when we filed a bill 2 years ago, we had one unfunded liability number, and it continues to grow. And for those of you that think that this is going to be easy to solve, and by doing things like today, the sad part of that is it doesn't get easier, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. So those of you that want an easy vote, get that out of your heads. It isn't going to happen. The playing field gets larger and larger because of the magnitude of the problem, as Representative Sanger and Representative Harris and Representative Kay said. We need to stop the politics. We have, as Jim Watson, I thought, so articulately said, the idea of collaboration, the idea of working together, the idea of coming together makes a lot of sense. We really are at a point where we may not have a pension system down the road. And as I've said before, people around this state think that only happens somewhere else, not here. Well, we're on the verge of that. And the fact that we want to, even today, on a special session day play politics with the biggest issue of all times is troubling. We have been committed to getting pension reform done. We will remain committed. We will stay here for as long as it takes and work with you on all of the issues, but it needs to be done in a very, very comprehensive manner. This doesn't even come close. Now, the governor will, in all likelihood, depending on the success or failure of this bill, want to say the General Assembly, perhaps Republicans, my guess is there are a number of Democrats that might not even vote for this, they get it, didn't act to take care of their own pensions. And Governor, I'm sorry, with all due respect, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. You acknowledged this early in the spring, that we needed to do a real comprehensive pension bill, and I applauded you at the time for that. You took up, in a very bold manner, a number of ideas that needed to be addressed, things that we had talked about and things we supported. It was only in concept form. We never saw a bill. We haven't seen a bill yet, but you talked about it. And it's ironic that we went from a great, great plan and some good vision to doing a bill that may save $50 million off of a $130 billion unfunded liability. We got out of session the end of May. We've had 2 meetings. We haven't had a meeting in 2 months. As Dennis Reboletti, I think, appropriately said, we'd like you to engage in this conversation. We'd like you to bring us back. We'd like you to have intensive negotiations. This is not something that we can put off down the road. I want to make it very clear. We are ready to get this done. A lot of politics is going on around here. I realize the season. I know perhaps that the fare for you on Wednesday wasn't particularly good and has had some impact perhaps on why we're not doing SCRS. But the reality is we have to get something done. We have to get something done that is substantive, is comprehensive, and sends a message to the business community, the bond houses, the annuitants, that we get it. And we stand willing and ready to work with you. The idea of playing politics, the idea of saying we're in the majority, we run the place, take it or leave it, that's old-style politics. That doesn't work with the problems we have today. We did some things this past cycle that in the last session we didn't want to do. We had some great division in our caucus, but we did it because of the problems we have. So we continue with that approach we'll continue with that approach on pensions, and we're willing to work with you starting tonight or in the morning or whenever you're ready and willing to do it on your side and along with the governor. And we hope the President of the Senate returns soon so we can engage the Senate as well on the Democrat side to get this done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.